Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Meanwhile Here on Earth. This program features in-depth conversations with the leading names in the subjects of UFOs, abductees, the paranormal, panel discussions, and the very best and brightest of the next generation of writers and researchers. Meanwhile Here on Earth, the show breaking new ground in alternative talk with your intrepid host, veteran investigative writer and researcher, Peter Robbins.
And welcome back to Meanwhile Here on Earth with your host, me, Peter Robbins. I think many of you are probably preparing today for tomorrow's 4th of July celebrations. Our show today is pre-recorded because today, July 3rd, which is in the future for me right now, I will be flying back from Roswell, New Mexico. No, it will be my last day in Roswell, New Mexico before flying back on the 4th of July. Don't even ask. It's just the way it worked out. A very special guest today, a dear friend of mine going back more than 25 years, who I have not seen in some years, Brigitte Barclay, also previously known as Bridget Grant, is one of the UK's highest profile UFO witnesses and contactees. Brigitte has worked with some of the world's leading alien abduction researchers, including Bud Hopkins, Dr. John Mack, Roger Lear, and Dolores Cannon. She has collaborated extensively with former Ministry of Defense official Nick Pope, and her story has been featured in national daily UK newspapers, including The Sun and the Daily Mail, as well as in a variety of TV shows and documentaries. And it is a pleasure to welcome you here from your undisclosed location somewhere in the United Kingdom, deep underground. Kingdom.
Yeah. Hello, Peter. Hi there again. Hi.
It's great to see you again, my dear.
My dear.
How goes it today? All things considered.
Oh, it is hot in England. The summer has begun, I do believe. And what a wonderful day for you to be going back home to Ithaca tomorrow for your 4th of July. Fantastic. How amazing to be around friends and family for you. What a beautiful day. I love 4th of July.
Now, one of the things for me that distinguishes you in this field as an experiencer, as an abductee, as a scholar, is how open and public you have been about your experiences going back to a time when very few people were. And what I'd like to do to begin is sort of a preoccupation I have in general with this show, something that informed it from the very first show, going back to my childhood, which is how do people that we know or think we know in public life become the people they are? And of course, it all begins at the beginning. Can you give us a little idea of how things started for you? Where were you born, for starters?
I was born in Oxford in 1970. So that nearly makes me 53. And then we moved a couple of years later to a little place called Lympstone in Devon. So yeah, born in Oxford, England.
I have to say, in somewhere between 20 and 25 visits to the UK, I have only visited Devon once. And it stays in my mind very strongly because, as you know better than most people, it is not like the rest of the United Kingdom. In fact, what caught me completely off guard, you hear these things or you read them, but then you're there and it registers more viscerally because you are the most southern point in the United Kingdom. And because of the Gulf Stream that runs just below, it's incredibly temperate, so much so, my jaw dropped the first time I saw a palm tree. There it was. They're there.
Yeah.
Not to mention the wildlife. The terrain is absolutely beautiful. It's, so caught up in history, to put it mildly, like so much of England is. I would imagine it was a great place to grow up. At least that was my impression. Can you tell us a little bit about your parents, your family, and your growing up in Devon?
Uh-huh. Yeah, when he said about the palm trees, I think it was I think like the Victorians brought a lot of palm trees because we've got some beautiful, very Victorian gardens all around, and you've got what we call the English Riviera, which is down. You're correct, it is in Devon. It's down the Torquay Band, Torquay, Paynton, and it is a bit bizarre to see them. And the fact that even though we have really harsh winters here in England, they still survive. But then you do get lots of people that they wrap the tops of their palms so frost doesn't get to them in the winter. So that, but yeah, you're right. It is quite bizarre to see a palm tree. Right. So, yeah, my family, my mum came from Belgium. She came from Antwerp. My dad came from Oxford. They met when my mum's mum had a pub in Antwerp, and my dad was in the RAF. My dad couldn't speak any English. My mum couldn't speak any Flemish. They eloped, came to England, got two brothers, Paul and Tony, both artists. My dad became a potter and a sign writer, a traditional sign writer. And my mum had, as you say, sort of like in England, it's quite quaint. We had the traditional thatched cottage. And I said it to you on another interview, the thatched cottage my mum had, the sitting room was was done up as a delicatessen, had a counter in it, had all the salami, the hams. My mum used to go over to Belgium. We had an old little Sunbeam Alpine. We used to, it sounds really bad, but it's like we used to smuggle all the food and the mayonnaise and all the sausages and everything into the car and come back. But yeah, so everyone knew my mum. They knew it as a little sweet shop as well, in Limpston. So yeah, my mum and dad were sort of like the heart of the village, really. And yeah, I had a fantastic childhood growing up in a very quaint little village. Yeah, up to no good, as you usually are. Back then, thankfully, we didn't have the computers or anything like that. But you'd be out all day playing. You'd make new friends. When summers were long, or they felt like the holidays were long. Yeah, very creative. I was brought up very creative as a child. Yeah.
As we move along in life and you learn about other people's lives and you compare notes about your childhood, if you're fortunate enough, like you were and I were, to have a happy childhood,
yeah.
An opportunity to dream big, to, not have to take on the adult world before you need to or have to. It's incalculable how that assists you through more challenging times as you grow older. And it gives you something to fall back on that's priceless. When you were a little girl, let's say between 5 and 10 years old, were there any particular dreams that you had or ways that you saw yourself in the future?
I don't think so. I never wanted, it wasn't something that, I wanted to be and then became. I didn't have a dream to say that I wanted to do this or I wanted to do that, but I knew which way my life was going to go as I was younger, because it was down the psychic route. Because as much as I didn't, as I was growing up by having encounters with,
Yes.
At the time, I didn't realize the Chinese girl in the gazebo for later, but I was having paranormal experiences. So when you're growing up, you're taking that on board as well. And, I spoke to my dad about my encounters, and my dad, like I said, was very creative. He never told me, don't be so silly, but, don't be so silly. So I grew up how a child should grow up, having fun in the garden, making things, going in the pottery with dad, making little things and painting and playing, making tree houses and things. So, really creative. So I think when you have paranormal experiences growing up, it doesn't just shut that door. Unless you've gone down a different path, where, there's the good and the bad in everything, isn't there?
Sure.
But I went down the professional way of sitting and working with mediums, or like the Monroe Institute, the Gateway experiences. Later on in life, I went and did had all of the audios, the CDs for that, and went down that path. So I've always, it didn't have there wasn't a job that I wanted to do, but I just know maybe this is my job in some ways. It was about still keeping the connection between that world, and it's easily forgotten, as you know, when you've got to think of mortgages, car tax, children growing up, you can blank it all off, but it was always still there for me. So, yeah.
So, again, for a lot of our viewers and listeners, some of them are experiencers and abductees, others not. Can you give us an idea of what kind of non-standard things you were experiencing as a girl that, give us an idea of some of the paranormal experiences you were having as a young person?
Well, paranormal experiences were always fun. There's always an element of fun with it. So you always waited for that next something to happen. And the more it happened, the more that when you're young, it's really hard to question lots of things because those questions aren't in your head at that point because you're too young. So I suppose you think on a child basis, like I said to you about the Chinese girl in the gazebo, which we'll talk about in a minute. But as a child, I used to love going out of my body and floating above my bed and looking in my room. That was the fun thing to do, and people would say, well, how did you do that? I just remember doing it once, going back into the next night, thinking, right, come on, how did I do it? How did I do it? Think about it. How did I do it? And I would do it again. It wouldn't happen all the time, but I learned that technique of I could hear parents coming up the stairs or something. So it's like back into your body again, and it actually felt that you had left your body because you can see yourself down there. And I've had out of body experiences as I've got older, and you're sort of like connecting to you up there, your subconscious, your higher self, but yet you can see yourself down here as well. So all of my psychic stuff, what I started off as a child, has just continued. So as an experience, that would be that playing that game of going out, journey out of the body. Also, what did come up under Bud's hypnosis, Bud Hopkins hypnosis, when I went to Bud's in 98 and where I met your good self. But we spent, I think it was 6 days, weren't we? I think with me and Nick Pope. Yeah, lovely. And that's where I said to you that I remember Bud's apartment. It was amazing. And the artwork. And I said to you, I remember being in awe of Bud's work. And like there's one called The Guardian. And obviously coming from a creative background, my dad being an illustrator thing, I just was telling Bud about my dad and, and the sign writing and just seeing it from a different perspective, because it was very bold prints that Bud had done. And like I said to you, I remember then got his book, which I absolutely love, his book about his artwork, life of artwork. So the Chinese girl, I would say, would have been when I knew that something was different yet again. You could have like the what I class as the little people. that came up under hypnosis that the little people I told you about the other day, they were in the garden at my friend's house, but also I had the little people that used to come to my windowsill in this house that I used to go out of my body and on my bed. And that came up under the hypnosis with Bud. And then I was like, the penny dropped. Okay. And the man at the bottom of the garden, but the Chinese girl would probably be the most strangest one with the man at the bottom of the garden. That was a very different paranormal experience for me.
Brigitte, early on, did you try to, or did you talk to your parents, your brothers about these experiences? And if so, what were their reactions?
Yeah. I don't recall I possibly did. I possibly would have said I've met a girl and, I'm going to go back and meet her tomorrow. I don't recall that conversation at all, because that's obviously when I was about, 6, 7. I don't recall, and it wasn't something I kept bringing up. But the man at the bottom of the garden, everybody in the family knew that he was there. And it was funny because my brother had a party over Christmas, and his friend came I haven't seen for since I lived in London when I was about 22, some while ago. And his name's Andy. And Andy had followed all of my UFO encounters. So he used to work for the Daily Mail. And he used to follow all of my encounters. And he said to me, B, I remember the man at the bottom of the garden, you telling me about him, and me and Paul running after him, trying to get him. So both my brothers have had UFO encounters. My daughter has had UFO encounters. My eldest son, Orion, has had UFO encounters with me and with some of his friends on separate occasions. Mum and Dad don't know if they did.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but my brothers definitely knew about the man at the bottom of the garden, definitely. Oh, and obviously when I had my big UFO encounter in Los Angeles, in Brentwood, then it's like I might as well have come back as an alien. Mum said to me, oh, my God, you've changed. And it's like, well, yeah, it's like having probably the most amazing, in some ways, don't take this way, but it's like having a religious awakening, that having that encounter on the freeway, because oh my God, got goosebumps. I've said that.
We will get to that account later, but in retrospect, I'm thinking of so many accounts that people have shared with me over the years, where one of the greatest factors is my mom didn't believe me. My father told me, oh, honey, you just thought you saw that, but it couldn't be, because that isn't real. And, you have a wonderful imagination. You didn't have to deal with any of that negation, usually based on the adult's own anxiety of, oh my gosh, if this is really happening, I can't let on that I'm anxious about it. And frankly, I'm just so uncomfortable with the subject. I want to discourage my kid. I love them, but I can't take this seriously, because you didn't have to deal with that. And I think it's, again, built on a happy childhood, being an inquisitive kid, not being stifled or, told that your role was such and such because you were a girl rather than a boy. You grew into it, and it was something that was not fraught with terror. It was a tremendous curiosity, just the opposite. Yeah. What I'm trying to say is you are an archetype of somebody who has addressed this and experienced it in as good a mental health situation, with as much support and goodwill as possible. Yeah. And as we know, that can make all the difference.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I am very fortunate in that way. Yeah.
Do you remember when it was, and it could have been anywhere in there, when you first started to be aware of so-called the UFO phenomena per se, in the media, in books, in movies, and tied it somehow in with your experiences? In fact, what was the first conscious UFO sighting that you ever had?
Okay. Well, There's a few questions in what you've given me.
Indeed, yes.
So, yeah. So, as in the media, well, it wasn't the media. In England, we had 3 channels on the TV at the time. So, that was the only media, or the radio, wasn't it? As of something that I really did like watching as a child was a thing called Logan's Run. And Logan's Run was Michael York, and he had a crystal on his hand. I remember that. And he had runners, and there was a lady called Jessica in it, and I named Jessica after Jessica from Logan's Run. So I used to like that, and I can't remember. That must have been like the very sort of like mid 70s. Yeah, because it was a series, and then it came out as a film.
That's right.
So yeah, I think it was the film that I remember mostly, because then it was a bit like Clash of the Titans at one point, because there was sort of like Grease, and you had the guy with the big white beard. I can't remember his name now, but yeah, I really liked that film. So that was there was nothing on it, there wasn't anything on the telly really. But so as is an UFO encounter, I'd never put the Chinese girl in the gazebo as a UFO encounter. I put it down as a very strange paranormal experience that I couldn't explain, because it was just me witnessing it. It wasn't like I was having a ghost encounter and I was somewhere and I could tell somebody, I've just seen this person here, describe that person, and that person then say to me, that's where my nan died, and you've just described her totally. So then that's validating that. So it wasn't until obviously after I had the big encounter in Los Angeles on the freeway, Brentwood, that then everything went together. I had a UFO experience with my old boyfriend Billy in England. Now, when we spoke last week, obviously I have kept everything. I have kept letters that back in the day that used to write to somebody. I have the replies from that person that wrote back to me. So it'd be the old MUFONs. It would be like I've said to you, I've got Walt and Drea on a tape, because I recorded the conversation that I had with them on the phone. And that was in about 96, 97. All of my, getting back in touch with Bud, working with Dolores, backwards and forth with John Mack from Harvard. So many people, and so many English-based people here, like Ken Phillips, that really helped me. He's the first person I really got in contact with. So it wasn't really it was like I said, that I had to have that encounter out in Los Angeles to put everything together, even though I'd had an encounter in England, a UFO encounter. Of course, it was an extraordinary UFO encounter because it happened in a room, which is quite bizarre. But as you know, orbs come into the room. You can have anything that will manifest into a room. It can be absolutely anything. So the Chinese girl in the gazebo, I thought that's very different. And I know why it's different, because obviously then you've got the things, and I hadn't obviously Taken wasn't written then, and Intruders wasn't written then, when I growing up, so I couldn't see it as a screen memory or anything, but I certainly knew in the back of my mind that wasn't a typical, it was a very strange encounter, definitely. That happens over 2 days.
Cut you off for a minute and say, when you first described that to me, the Chinese girl and the gazebo, it just set off some bells and whistles. It literally, one can always be devil's advocate here because we're talking about the unknown, but it sounds like a classic presenting sign, even, a gazebo. and a Chinese girl in your back garden in Devon.
Which it wasn't my back
I
garden as such, it was down the road, but yeah, I know what you mean. Well, yeah, in
when
the
we
village.
talked about it recently, I told you a memory that it brought up for me immediately. A mentor that I had before I met Bud, Pete Mazzola, a tough, no nonsense Brooklyn Italian American New York City police detective,
Okay,
highly
wise guy.
decorated, who in the 70s, later 70s, the NYPD had put him forward for training to do hypnotic regression for criminal investigation. He was one of only 2 or 3 people, and he had a profound interest in UFOs. Whether or not he had experiences as a young person, he was not comfortable talking about. He's quite a macho guy. And I think that whole thing, especially for men of losing control in situations like this, is it's an ego batterer, to put it mildly. And he remembered, as a boy growing up in Brooklyn, a holiday picnic in Prospect Park, a beautiful park that's the equivalent for Brooklyn of what Central Park is for Manhattan. And he kind of remembered wandering off and finding a small house under the trees with some small children who were playing, and invited him into the house. And then in complete memories, there was no house there. And your experience, in no way was, filled with dread or anything. It's just, it sits there kind of in your mind. Let's jump ahead a bit, because at a certain point, you decided that, lovely as your area of England was, you wanted to have a more exciting life, and you moved to London to pursue it. Can you tell us what your dream was and some of what you realized in a very exciting life, to put it mildly, at the time?
So, oh God. Well, I moved up to Guildford, actually, first of all.
Okay.
I got a job. We have a magazine here called The Lady Magazine, and The Lady Magazine, it had an au pair job in Guildford. So I got the job, moved to Guildford, and when I was in Guildford, the lady that I used to live with my partner at the time, I had a ghost experience one evening there, and I described the lady, where she was, and his name, my partner's name at the time, was called Luke. And the mum said, well, that is exactly where my mum collapsed and died. So I had gone to the toilet in the middle of the night. So it's whether your subconscious is sort of like half asleep, half awake, that sort of that state of mind where things can float in and float out. Went downstairs, went to the toilet, went to open the door, and there in front of me was a lady as clear as you, Peter, sitting there, but she was stood up at the doorway. And I could see her. I knew that she shouldn't be there. And because at that time I was working with mediums. And so I knew that she wasn't us. So I just remember holding my breath, taking a very big breath, walking through her, walking and turning, and then going up the stairs, and then getting into bed and thinking, oh my God. So the next morning I said to Luke's mum, there was a lady here, and then she said to me, that's what I'm saying, the validation that how I described her and that I was right. So I started then doing makeup. So I was working for a company called Elizabeth Arden, started doing makeup. And then I started back then doing what it was called, it was a page 3 girl back then. And then that took me over to America back in the late 90s. So I was the girl that had the fast cars. I had the great life of going to the nice swanky restaurants, wining and dining, meeting, great people. And I could have the cars that I wanted, and they were all TR7s, and everyone hated TR7s, but I loved them because, funny enough, in the car park opposite where I saw the Chinese girl in the gazebo. One day I saw a car there and its lights went up and then went down again. I went, I'm going to have you. So that was my first car at 17, was a TR7 convertible. And I'm still a petrol head totally to this day. I've had probably about 7 TR7s. So I've had an American cop car, Chevy Caprice Classic. I've had a GMC pickup truck. I've had an SL Mercedes 107 convertible, Jennifer Hart's car. So I've had a great life actually. I've had all
You
the
were
cars
also
I've
being
wanted, except for one.
you were also being seen in the newspapers regularly. A lot of people knew who you were.
Yeah, yeah.
Which also has to add to kind of the headiness of that period of time in your life.
Yeah.
At what point was it, after the Los Angeles event, and we will talk about that in more detail, of course, or before it, that you found yourself looking to connect with other people in the research or experience or community?
Well, so a friend of mine from my village, from my town in Exmouth, had moved over to Los Angeles, to Huntington Beach, and to do bodybuilding. So because I had money, I could then go over and visit my friends. So two of them went over there. I was having UFO, but I describe it as something different. Like it was a mattress that went above the bed with my boyfriend Billy, and it had little lights on it. Now, we just watched it. I wouldn't have even said it was a UFO. Actually, you asked me something earlier, so I'm just going to trace back to it. You said to me, at what point did I sort of start taking in things, whether it's from the media or growing up as a child?
Yes.
Right. So I still have the very first UFO book that I bought, and it's called the UFO Handbook by an Alan Hendry. And I bought it in 1987 because it's got 1987 in it, my writing. So I bought that book. It's like a manual if you ever see a UFO. I worked at a bookshop, and I remember it coming in. That came in, and a book on the Titanic. So I remember buying that book and a book on the Titanic because I was just absolutely, the pictures of it underneath the sea, that was just phenomenal for me.
Sure.
So that was my first UFO book, which, like I said, I've still got. My mum kept it up in the loft. That's amazing. I'd moved from London to Los Angeles. I had sort of like a trunk up in the loft that had all my bits and bob in it. And there, lo and behold, was my good old-fashioned UFO book, which obviously now I've got absolutely hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, like yourself, more. And also those Preston's in it. We're in a call. We got to start counting how many we've got because we got a lot between us all. So obviously there was an interest because it's a UFO book. And then I think the second book that I bought was Light Years.
Sure, Gary Kimner.
Yeah, Billy Meir. Now, that is pretty much bang on what I saw out in Los Angeles. So let's say that I brought that one. If I was working in I'm not sure if I bought it when I was working in the bookshop, but it would have been a couple of years after that. Okay. Obviously, when we had good old-fashioned bookshop. So which also I contacted Billy Meir when I came back from Los Angeles and have the letters still. And Billy sent me stickers from him, of where he was in Switzerland. I've got everything that I've ever written to anybody and got a reply back I've kept. So I think that is, a lot of things go missing. Also, after our talk the other day, I was doing something and then I found a very old folder that I had. And in that folder, back in the day when people used to have business cards, Lo and behold, I've been through that loads of times. I actually went to go in it to go and find something for Preston. Actually, I went to go and find a card. There was a chap in Topanga Canyon when Topanga was going through a UFO flap when I was living there. And I found I kept the gentleman's card. So I photocopied it and sent it to Preston. But lo and behold, I have the original little door card from a place called the Mark Tay Hotel, where I had the UFO encounter above the bed with Billy. That was in there, the room number. And also there was my card, another card about my Oakwood apartment, where I lived in Woodland Hills, and where I drove back to when I had my encounter on the freeway, which also linked to another UFO encounter that I had here in England. You know, the government, they're releasing the pictures of the metallic balls that people are seeing, you know, everywhere. You know, periodically people have seen them everywhere, but you know, they'd caught them on film or in stills. Where I used to work, I had seen these objects as well, and it links back to my UFO encounter that day, to be honest. And I'm just saying that I've got proof of I lived at that apartment, and also I didn't realize. Ironically, those apartments were the most coolest apartments to live at, because it had all of the famous people living there. It had, you know, Drew Barrymore, all of like the people that the young kids that want to start drama school, or, you know, like some of my friends were from Ithaca Film School. So there's Gavin Alcott. He used to go to Ithaca Film School, and his dad was John Alcott. And John Alcott was very famous over here. He was a director of photography in lots of very famous films, in The Mask, here for his cine photography for like all of the adverts, the Hovis adverts stuff. So Ithaca, actually, college had a big part to play for me, because I'd been to Ithaca to go and visit my English friends over there. It's your hometown.
No, it's not. My hometown's New York City, but
but for Ithaca, yeah.
But yeah. I wanted to go back to something, which is,
of course.
You are, it's tragic at this point to me that so few people correspond, you know, in a way. Well, I'm nostalgic and somewhat romantic, but letter writing and expressing yourself literally on paper, like a good writer. After we spoke a few days ago, I was going through some older files, and look what I found.
Oh my gosh. You'll have to screen save that. What's my address there? Tell me, is that an Exeter?
It is. Exeter. It's a letter, a 4-page letter from you to me when you were living in Exeter, Devon. I will make a copy of it and send it to you later today. It's
that's so beautiful.
It's a total time capsule, but you're very precise, and you know, there's when you know something
amazing.
Well, again, as somebody that still occasionally writes letters like that and puts them in envelopes and nothing digital about it. It goes analog through the mail.
Yeah.
It's still a good way to communicate.
Yeah, but because my good friend, Pacer, he lived in Topanga Canyon, and you know, I've known Pacer for like 30 odd years, and he used to letter write on that yellow paper, because so it would be like every couple of weeks we'd always write. And even I'd write to my friends when I was out in England, when I was out in the States to England, even though you could pick up the phone, but it was very expensive. I possibly now need to go and look in my other folders, because I possibly have replies from you because I used to run, obviously, a witness support group in Exeter.
No doubt.
And I should imagine those letters that you'd send me would be in there. So that's interesting. I'm going to go back and go through that as well, actually. That's great.
Now, a question for you.
What was the date on it? Can I just ask? What was the date on it? Did I write a date on it?
It's not dated. It's not dated. So
envelope on the envelope?
You will be able to deduce it. I think it's late 90s, but I'm not sure. In any case, at a certain point, you were a public person, and whatever the circumstances were, you became friends with, made contact with, worked with one of the highest rising visible presences in the work at the time, Nick Pope, who was employed by the Ministry of Defense. And for several of the years, as we all know, that he was there, involved in their UFO area of inquiry. And how did you come to meet and become friends with Nick?
Okay, so here's my really old book with everybody's letters backwards and forth. It didn't actually start with Nick in the first point. So it started with a company called ASAP. It was the Association of Scientific Study of Anonymous Phenomena. So I was in contact with, back then, people. It would have been after I came back from America in 93. And I think for a couple of years, I didn't do anything. It was then, obviously, I might have had the light bulb moment go off, and I was actually having experiences when I came back from America. And so I was writing to Timothy Good, I would be writing to Jenny Randalls, I'd be writing to other people, and Ken Phillips. It was Ken Phillips that totally took me under his wing. And I went up on the bus to go and see him. He was living in London. He didn't tell me of Nick at the time. And I've got a Morris Townsend. But it was, and Buford as well. It was, like I said, it was Ken Phillips, really, that put me. UFO conferences were on, and we had UFO magazines at the time. Not many magazines. We had a few magazines.
The Birdsall's UFO magazine was being published at that point.
Yeah. And weirdly, there was, I've got all of the, there's actually a good range of UFO magazines at the time, but there was one being published actually in Exeter itself. It was when I just wanted to meet people that had UFO encounters. So I put a local advert in the Exeter paper, and
for goodness sakes,
I have to tell you this. Yeah, so I said, look, I'm starting up a witness support group. I was there with a girl called Kathy. She had started the witness support group with me because she'd had an encounter with her girlfriend at the time, a very close encounter on the road. It had landed. And so I just put it in the paper. Has anyone had any UFO encounters? If they have, can they contact? And I had a PO box. And it was one of those things where all of a sudden you go to the PO box, and honestly, there would be absolutely loads and loads of letters. But the initial sort of advert was that I told them about my UFO encounter in Los Angeles. But they wrote it. They made me look like a bit of a loon, really. People, how the media back then, or sort of is still a little bit better now, but the green men from outer space and spaceships and things. And I thought, you know what, I'm not having that. Now there was a friend of mine that lived behind me. Now I never knew that she was an abductee. And also her name was Helen Sanders. I was doing the witness support group. I'd get, hire a hall. People would go, or I'd go off to places and do talks and talk about my encounters. And then people would, talk about their encounters. And somebody brought Helen over to me, and they said, she's an abductee. Now, Peter, I'm not sure if I told you this. Helen's encounter was on Christmas Eve, the same night as Rendlesham Forest.
Oh my.
And so this is something I think me and you need to talk about at another time, and I put you in touch with. But so it happened to her in Bristol, on a hill in Bristol, on Christmas Eve. A craft, abduction, physical symptoms, everything. So I remember, well, we became good friends. I remember then it was advertised as there was a conference going to be in Bristol, and which wasn't far from Exeter, a couple of hours drive, if. And, people were going to be there. Well, Nick was there. I don't remember at the time who was speaking. I just remember I needed to meet Nick because he had worked or was working for the Ministry of Defence. And because my encounter, to me, the importance of my encounter isn't just the craft on the freeway, it is the other things that go with it, and also the huge synchronicities behind that encounter that obviously are personal to me, the synchronicities, but they always lead back to that encounter. So he was there with his good friend and your good friend Michelle, and there were other people talking, and I went up to him and I told him about my UFO encounter. So then afterwards, so I'd met him. Then afterwards, I'd had put in the paper that I was running a witness support group, and then they put something that I didn't like in the paper. So I said, no, hang on a minute, I need to set the record straight. You need to contact this guy. I had Nick's number for the office, and so I said, I'm going to put you in that, and I want you to speak to this guy to say that this does happen to people, in which he did. So then a couple of days later in the paper, and I still have those newspaper clippings, it was, oh, I'm ever so sorry, this is a gentleman who works for the Ministry of Defence. So then Nick said, right, start at the beginning. What happened? So then I told him what had happened. So he said, right, okay, this is interesting because it involved military helicopters. It involved a Men in Black car in broad daylight. And it was a continuous thing for me. It didn't just stop there, the encounter. I had other encounters as well. And then that's what led us to go and work with, I worked with Dolores Cannon. What year did I work with Dolores? I worked with Dolores in 97.
Okay.
And then, which, like I said, I am going to actually have those, they're on VHS. I'm actually going to have them sorted out, and so I can go through them now. And then I worked and I met your good self at Bud's in 98. So it was Nick and me. We went over to New York for 5 days, and we met yourself, and we met Linda Cortill, and some of your good friends and your sister's best friend.
Yeah.
And I had, I think 5 days we were there, maybe 6 days, and I had 3 days of solid hypnosis, which, well, you listen. I think that I'm a people person, but let me tell you, when you've had hypnosis, and it was long hypnosis sessions, I think we had 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. Yeah. You feel like shit.
You're exhausted.
Your face is,
you are reliving.
Mentally, because you've got pictures in your head. You're confused. You don't even. I remember Nick and Bud talking to me afterwards, and I'm like, I'm in a state of shock. And you were there as well, and I remember at the dinner table, when we went out in the evenings, I'm sort of like in my, I'm sure I know we had fantastic time, but I had the trauma of going through that. I was just physically and mentally exhausted. Yeah. But I'm glad that I did it. Of course I am. And I know that it's controversial. I know people would say that, and, that don't trust, hypnosis. But for me, to work with two very, very good people, obviously, in the field. And you've got to remember, Dolores Cannon fell into this as well through, more and more people were talking about, if we go really controversial, well, I don't think it's controversial, but if we go along the lines of were actual beings, they recall being beings. So, you can think of let's talk remote viewing as well, and future remote viewing, and picking up other things. So I remember coming across Dolores's books, The Custodians, Keepers of the Garden, and just being in awe of it and resonating with it totally, because as a child, I'm having experiences. I've got the man at the bottom of the garden. I'm being also the beings that I'm seeing after from the hypnosis on the freeway. I recall being a child, having them in my garden. I'm familiar with them. They've been with me ever since I was little. So that I found fascinating with working obviously with Dolores. She's got a different approach, as Bud's got a different approach, and they both asked very totally different questions, but also they asked obviously about the Los Angeles freeway. I recall more from Bud's hypnosis than I do Dolores's, because I know that at the time with Dolores's, I was being blocked pretty much left, right, and centre, because I was living in Exeter at the time. At the time, I would have been, it was a year before coming to meet you and Bud, but I was having horrendous headache, migraines, so you get the physical along with having encounters as well, because I was having beings next to me at Exeter, right next to the bed, or seeing a triangle go over there by the house, or seeing where this other abductee, Helen, that had the same had a UFO encounter on the the evening of Rendlesham Forest as well, seeing sea mines with spikes going towards her house, over the park. I know I'm sort of like going back and forth and stuff, but in my head, it's all of that same sort of time. Yeah, I'm glad that I did do it. And we've all got the technology. I can look at everything now, and now's the time that I am seriously going to go through everything. And I'm looking into it, the more I actually have more pieces of that puzzle to look at. Of, like I said, I've got, and also Peter, I've also, after we spoke, I got on the phone, tap into Billy's brother. So Billy's where I had the encounter with the thing above the bed, but Billy was also the who I was with when I had my UFO encounter out in Los Angeles. We were living together, and I took the girl for the job interview. And I always say her name was Jane or was Kelly. So it's been confirmed it was Kelly, but I recall Billy's mum saying her name Jane, so that's where they're both strange. But I've gone with a list of questions to Billy now, so I would like to find her. So now again, I'm going to go through all of that again that I went through years when I first got back. I want to find her, but now the internet, we can find people. So yeah, I'm looking into that as well now, because that would just be the icing on the cake, wouldn't it, for me?
Quick question. We're coming into our last few minutes of the first half of the show. Would you, I completely forgot to give people your website location, and I encourage you all to visit Brigitte's website. And it is again?
It's www. And it's Brigitte, spelled Brigitte, and it's Barclay, BARCLAY.com. So it's www.brigittebarclay.com. Thanks.
Great.
And it will have links to various things that I've talked with Nick at the old Graham Birdsall's or at Leeds Exopolitics of 2011, when I was on This Morning with Gary Hesseltine, and I'm going to be uploading more things, like talks that we do, and like I did with Preston Dennett a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Before we take our break, what do you think the reasons are that these other intelligences are interacting with people like you over the years?
And everyone always, how many times do we all hear this? Why you? What's so special about you? Why can't I see something as well? Well, I don't know. I wish I had that $1 million answer, but
fair enough.
I'm glad that I have, and maybe it takes a certain person, or I don't know. It maybe there is an answer to it, but I don't know it yet.
Anybody that tells me that they absolutely do know, I have to step back and question how, because as Bud used to sometimes say, not the most trusting person toward these other entities at times. Why should we trust them any more than the United States Air Force?
Right.
Anyway, we're going to go to break shortly. This is Peter Robbins. My special guest is Brigitte Barclay from somewhere in England, and the show is Meanwhile Here on Earth, and we will be back in a few short minutes. Don't go away.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Are we alone in the universe? The most important question facing humanity is on the verge of being settled once and for all. The Mutual UFO Network has been at the forefront of this journey for nearly 50 years. Our members worldwide are dedicated to the research, documentation, and awareness that will shape the future of humanity. Won't you join us?
It's not just a donation.
It's a warm blanket.
It's a bottle of clean water.
It's a roof and a bed.
It's knowing someone cares.
It's feeling safe.
It's a today that's better than yesterday.
Every dollar you can spare helps so much more than you can imagine. Please, donate now to help people affected by Hurricane Ian. Your support is urgently needed.
Discover the Observation Deck, a one-of-a-kind virtual event platform that takes video conferencing to the next level by using avatars to navigate a campus. There's so many areas and activities to choose from. There's a 1,000-seat auditorium, an expo hall, a nightclub, and even a beach. So come attend a conference, take a class, or hear a lecture on the incredible Observation Deck campus. Go to theobservationdk.com.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
And we are back. Peter Robbins here. The show is Meanwhile, here on Earth. My special guest tonight is Brigitte Barclay. And Brigitte, before we dive into this remarkable and incredibly memorable UFO event sighting experience that you had in Los Angeles, I just want to take a look at a couple of photos with you, which I hope you'll enjoy. A favorite of mine.
Oh, miss riding, horse riding. Oh.
You really love
I'm
riding.
a beekeeper. I'm a beekeeper now. So I've got 3 beehives. So it's less stressful. Well, you'd think it's less stressful. It's hard work, actually, being a beekeeper.
I love it.
Yes.
And when you rode, at one point, you and a good friend had a portrait taken that has always stuck in my mind. It is, besides being a beautifully composed photograph, it evokes another time and speaks for itself.
Oh, bless. Well, there's a synchronicity behind that. So that's my very good friend, Terry, and that is Annie. Annie is Terry's horse. And then I had Annie up with me where I live. And sadly, on the day this year that I went down to see Terry, I was driving down that morning. Terry contacted me and said, B, Annie's just died. I've just been told she's in the field and she's died overnight. And it was really strange because, that was the day that I was going down to see her, going down to see Annie, going to see our other horses. And so that is a fantastic moment in time. That's the woods that we used to ride through with Annie. Annie was a beautiful cob. She was absolutely lovely. Yeah, it's a moment in time that I just wanted to capture. And I'm so glad we're both so glad that we did, because Annie was a beautiful, beautiful big cob horse. Lovely. I love horse riding. And
going back in time again.
Yay. It's Roger as well. Oh my God. You'd be taking
That's a great shot. Nick when his hair was dark. And dear Roger
Lear. Mine when I was dark. Yeah. So Roger, the alien and the scalpel. Yeah. So that would have been at Graham Birdsall's conference. Yes. And there was quite a few people, because were they put on every year, Graham's? Were they put on every year or every couple of years?
Yes.
The conference. Yeah, so there was lots of different people. Stephen Greer would be there.
The conferences were absolutely legend. Yeah. And for anybody not familiar with Dr. Roger Lear, he was a podiatric surgeon who became very focused, interested in the implants that people were claiming that were put there by non-human intelligences. And I think to a degree risked his political reputation and career by being the person...
Same as John Mack as well, thinking out of the box. Yeah.
To remove them. And one of the things that Roger established, it's a really, I think, a very important tangent. I always wondered from the time I first heard about the implant phenomena and started occasionally seeing them, recovered, of course, in a surgical procedure, that if you get a splinter, your white blood cells immediately signal the rest of your body that there is an intruder here, and the manifestation, it'll grow red. It's prone to infection, but the body recognizes that there is a foreign presence in it. How is it that that is not the case with these implants? And it was Roger who basically figured it out, and it was caught a lot of us off guard. What he established was that there is a super thin, impossibly tough coating, certainly on some of these, that he could not even cut through with a new surgical scalpel that created the same effect as the coating on a stealth aircraft. It wasn't recognized, which in itself is just another nod to their technology versus ours and how this is possible. Again, this is Linda Corteil on the left, who is a subject of that very famous study and book by Bud Hopkins, Witness, the True Story of the Brooklyn Bridge UFO Incident. And this was a very special event for all of us. This is my sister, my late sister Helen's dearest friend, Mariah Aguiar on the left, sadly, who passed a few years after Helen. Nick, of course, yourself. My literary agent, Robert Friedman, and still a very good friend, although now retired, and Linda. And Nick took this picture so I could be in it.
Yay!
It was a great night, a great dinner. The same restaurant is not there, but I could take you right back to the location. Anybody that's interested, it's the very last restaurant on Mott Street, right where it comes into Chatham Square and the Bowery. Here's now jumping ahead a few years.
Oh, yeah.
You and Robert Salas, one of the most respected and favorite
him and his wife are so lovely.
And we remain in contact. He is, I will tell him that we're in touch with you. He is.
I'm so glad that he went public as well about his experiences.
Yes.
Very
much so.
And it was just around that time, actually. That was at Gary Hesseltine's conference, wasn't it?
I think so. Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
It was at that time that he started to talk about the experiences that he was having, because obviously with him being in the Navy, but
Air Force. But he of course had the famous event where he was over and watched the lights blink out as nuclear weapons went offline. And a favorite of mine for obvious reasons.
Hey, troublemakers, look at us.
Totally.
Now,
one of the things
always around the table and food
we share a passion for, as well as a wealth of, is we're not only big readers, but we love books. And we have both built substantial libraries, although I have to say in some places I am less than thrilled because you have some books that I don't. And that's not good. This is part
that's only
of
some.
your
that's a very old picture. That's a really old picture. Oh my God. I need to send you the latest update. It's a problem.
I have information on all of us. And here's one of my favorite all-time portraits of two people I love.
Oh yeah. That was The Guardian. Actually, The Guardian's the one behind us.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we both wish we had.
Well, you can tell by the look on my face. I mean, as much as I'm just over in shock still. It's like,
it was a long couple of days, and you did great.
It was.
You really did. Now, set the scene for us about this event that happened in Los Angeles, because it was life-changing.
Yeah, right. So I'll go back to something that I said to you earlier about finding business cards. Well, in with all of them was a business card for where I was taking this girl for the job interview. Can you believe it? You can't write this stuff. So I probably had seen it and not thought anything of it. But now, because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, so now I've got the address So yeah, I've got a few things to research myself. Right, so set the scene. Billy had come over from England. I'm living in the Woodland Hills at Oakwood Apartments. His friend that was a hairdresser on Oxford Street. So the more information that I can give any of you readers, if you know of a Kelly that used to work on Oxford Street as a hairdresser that had a massive UFO encounter in Los Angeles, that would be amazing. Just, get in touch with myself or Peter. That'd be lovely. That'd be amazing. So I was taking her for a job interview down Rodeo Drive. Now, because she had a job at Oxford Street, so I took her down to Rodeo Drive. It was booked in, so I must have just walked around the mall. It was a little mall on the right hand side, opposite the cheesecake factory out there, down that way, and I remember picking her up, getting into the car. The car was in a big car park. I was up certain floors, so when you drive, you're driving all the way down. I remember we were chatting about, how the day, her interview, and various things. And then, because I was driving, it was on the 101 and the 405. He was driving out of Los Angeles. And, anyone that knows Los Angeles would know roughly where this is. It's just before you get to Brentwood. There was a Holiday Inn. It's no longer a Holiday Inn, I've been told. Nick told me it was no longer a Holiday Inn. And there, in the Holiday Inn, there's a restaurant up at the top that you can look out of and look down onto the freeway. So as I'm driving towards there, I'm feeling a little bit different. Obviously, there's no reason why I should be feeling different. She's had a great interview. We've been chatting, various things. But there is something in what's happening to me that I don't know. So I'm questioning, why am I feeling like this? It felt like an anxiety. It felt like a butterflies. It felt like, I can't say it was like a stage fright thing. I can't say that it was an excitement thing. I can't say what it was because I didn't know what it was. I just know there was something building and building and building, and it was getting more and more apparent that there's something quite strange happening to me. So as we're pulling off the freeway and you drive off the off-ramp, came around. Now, it has changed, this road, because I've been back there for a road trip with the BBC. They took me back to that place, and there was a central partition in that road, which you can tell from the tarmac on the floor, because I took loads of pictures of it. That would have been there at the time. So I think that's why in my head that I knew that I couldn't go right towards the Holiday Inn, because there was that central partition. But that's just, anyone that knew LA back then, you helped me out as well. So it's about 10 to 6 at night. It's really, really warm. My window is wound down. I'm not sure if James is, but mine's wound down. I'm just coming off the freeway. My hands are getting tighter and tighter, gripping the steering wheel. The anxiety, something's building. I'm not sure what the hell's happening to me, but I'm not feeling good at all. Hands are really on the steering wheel, and then there's traffic lights in front of me. There might be one car in front, but then there's that car in front that I remember, and then it's me. And the traffic lights. To the right of me is UCLA. To the left of me is a bridge, and the freeway is underneath me, backwards and forth into LA, out of LA, and you've got the Holiday Inn up on the right hand side if you go over the bridge, and then Brentwood's over that way. So there's something building. Not totally sure. I'm pretty much coming to a halt because the traffic lights have stopped. Now, I don't know if this object stopped the traffic lights. I don't know at all. All I remember is the feeling, and nobody ever could prise my hand off the steering wheel. It was so tight. You have the windscreen, you have the door panel, and I will say this, and I am going to start really thinking about this now. Why? I always remember the chrome part of the car, of the little triangular, and then you've got the window, but like I said, the windows wound down. I saw silver there at that point. So whether, I don't know, I'm not going to even go down that route yet.
Sure.
But why did I see the silver so low there? I'm not sure. All of a sudden, I saw something silver there. And then all of a sudden, it was pretty much on top of the trunk of the car in front of me, this object. Oh, that's my brother, Paul, drew that for me. It's a bit of a different perspective because actually, yeah, it's a different perspective of it. But so I'm seeing now this. I am, yeah, there you go. Thank you. Describe it as like a played-in sort of craft, like the Billy Meir craft. This craft in front of me, it is like that. It's not right above my head, but it's come down from the left. So it's on the left. It's gliding slowly but fast. It's going over the car in front. And it's probably, if you're in a car, sat in a car, and you were looking up at the top of a telephone pole, it was that low. So it's now going over the car in front of me, and then it's going over towards the right. Now, I remember as it's there, and I'm looking now pretty much, I won't say underneath it, but it was just over there. I'm looking underneath and looking at this sort of like power source, this orange red glow. I can see it's got no wings. I can see it's got no fuelage. You've got to remember, I've got the window down, but I don't hear anything. You know, I'm just in awe of this. Everything's been filtered out, and there's this, and I still have that feeling in me that is horrendous. I don't know what it is. So at that point, when I'm looking at it, obviously at that point, I swear, I go, what the F is that? So now Kelly is now looking at it, and we're both staring at it as it's going over to the right-hand side of us.
Yes.
So it's gone to the right-hand side of us, and I'm like, I can still see it from that angle that it's got no wings because it's now a bit further away. So I can see it's still got no wings from it. It's not making any noise. It's got no fuelage coming from it. And it's going over towards the right by UCLA. The traffic lights go back on. Car in front of me starts moving. And I am then going to the left. Now, in my head, I can hear, I can't go right. I've got to go up high, and I've got to see where this is going. I remember driving behind the car, going over the bridge. Before I'm just literally turning the wheel to go over the bridge, hands still real tight in some way, trying to drive tight out. I'm stuck on there. I then look behind in my window, the back window, and seeing what I always call the arse of it going through the tops of the trees. So it's so low. I then knew that I had to get up high, so that I'm going over the bridge. The Holiday Inn is on the right hand side. I then know that I have to get up high. Yeah. I'm then deciding that I have to drive up by the Holiday Inn. I don't know that I can do this. My cat's jumping up and around. Don't know that I can drive up behind the Holiday Inn, because I have never driven up behind the Holiday Inn before. But I know that I've got to get up high. So I drive up there. I get out. I then say to Kelly, we're both going to get out at the same point, and we're both going to point in the same direction where we thought it went. She gets out her side. I get out my side. We both point, and then we're pointing, and that would have been towards UCLA College. And at that point, it's just like the reality of her doing that, because obviously that's the first thing that I'd said to her. And we can't see it now at all. My eyes are watering. I'm shaking. I feel that feeling is still there. I'm not feeling right at all. Something's just happened. Something's not right. We both get in the car. I drive down the hill. I make a right and just drive for a couple of blocks. And I pull into this girl's house. And things are forgotten. I don't even know the girl's name anymore. I can't even remember. It would have been someone that I knew when I lived there, but I can't remember who it is. But I remember getting out of the car. I remember holding the car. I remember holding on to the car because it felt like I was drunk, and I never drank alcohol at all. And I just well, I assume that's what you felt like when you're drunk. I just didn't want to look around, didn't want to look at anything. I just hanging on to the car to get to the door, rang on the doorbell, and she said, "Right, do you want to come in?" And I said, "No, something's just happened to me. I need to go home." It was actually a bit like you're sort of like you. I knew that I had to go to a house. It was a bit like remote control. I knew that I had to go there. Something had happened. I then got back into the car. I then went to go and get in the car to pull the car out, because it was a drive that you drive into and then you can drive out back onto the road. And and I basically, there in front of me, let me just write something down a minute. I remember something in my head. I remember there in front of me was this car, this like gangster car. It was a very old, sort of like, I don't know, I couldn't date it. Let's say a 50s car, black, very low, very long, very narrow, blacked out windows down the side windows. And I couldn't see in. Now, I got told in my head that it was put there for me not to forget. Now, we know, everyone knows within ufology that you can forget things. And it's like I've been given things to recall things, if that makes sense. So I got told in my head that's been put there for me not to forget. So it was, whether it was screen memory of something, or it was a Men in Black car, or it was something that they projected up from the UFO for me that they'd put there. Now, my dad had some amazing cars growing up. You know, my dad.
Let me jump in for 1 minute with a question in a complete spirit of being devil's advocate.
Please.
Do you feel there was also a possibility? It's Los Angeles. Classic cars are more common there. The weather is good for them. Do you feel it's also possible that it might have been, some 1949 beautifully customized? Because I'm remembering a line of cars with kind of airflow dynamics, and for me, paranoidly thin windows. Do you feel it might have actually been what it seemed to be, or was that kind of eliminated in hypnotic investigation after the fact?
Well, I had a very good friend over there, an English friend called Scott Bose. And Scott Bose used to own Hollywood picture vehicles. He used to rent out all of his cars. He had like hundreds of them, all of the most amazing cars. Sure. He had the James Dean replica car. He had Stingray. He had absolutely everything. So, of course, it's Los Angeles. Of course, I mean, American cars, Harley Davidsons, everyone had something, something nice to drive. Of course, it could have just been that. But
not that in any way takes away from the event, but just one more possibility.
And of course, absolutely, of course, it's always good to play devil's advocate, absolutely. But in my head, like I couldn't go right, and I had to get up high, and it's been put there for me to remember. It was strange. It was something that, like I said, my dad's had classic cars all my life, and I've had classic cars, but it felt like I felt very scared. I didn't feel right looking at it. It made my eyes my eyes were watering anyway. But why there at that point? It was just very unusual. And yes, you're right. Lots of Hollywood movie sets. We're not far from Hollywood, and we're not far from from any of that area. Yeah, of course. But the UFO wasn't a part of a Hollywood set. So it was just there. And I felt uneasy at being there, like blocking me, that I couldn't go out. And it's been put there for me to remember. That's all I remember in my head. It's been put there for me to remember. It then casually moved off into the ongoing traffic. Then I was let out, and I carried on driving around the corner, back onto the freeway, off ramp to get back onto the freeway. Now, just as I was going down the off ramp to get back onto the freeway, because my window was wound down, I then heard a roaring noise, and all of a sudden, 4, 5 black, unmarked military helicopters were going. As I'm coming down the hill on the off ramp, they were heading towards UCLA College. Now, I don't know how long it took me from being up at the behind the Holiday Inn, down to the house, to the car, to there. I would like to say 10 minutes. I don't know. But those helicopters, one in particular, even, to the point of I could see the rivets on it as it's tilted and it's going so fast towards UCLA College. There's no such thing as a coincidence at that point. I knew that they were going towards that craft. I don't recall speaking to Kelly at all on the journey home. I just remember getting back, parking the car up, going back into the house, my apartment, sorry. And I remember her walking into the bathroom, and just the reflection of me looking at her looking at me. But I do remember Gavin, because Gavin used to be at, like I said, Ithaca Film College. He was there, and Billy was there. And I remember wanting to have the news on. That they had the TV on in the background, and they were chatting. And I went to say, hey, guys, you're not just going to believe what's happened. But I didn't. I didn't say anything to him. And I don't recall saying anything to him. All I recall is a couple of days after that, I just said, you know what? I got to get out of here. I can't handle what's just happened. So I must have spoken to Billy about it. And I asked a very good friend of mine if Billy could go and stay with him. So yeah, it freaked me out so much that I just needed to get out. I just don't know. And I just needed to get out. And then, yeah. So.
At that point, did you begin your plan to return to the United Kingdom?
No. So I went to a place called Aptos. A friend of mine had wanted to go and pick a caravan up from Aptos, which is above Santa Cruz. Mm-hmm. So they wanted to bring it back and put it into Topanga Canyon. So we did that. So it would have been, I think we probably had gone maybe a week and a half, came back to Topanga. And my good friend, prior to this, Pacer, he had lived in Topanga, so I knew of Topanga. I used to go to the little shop, Homegrown there and stuff. And, I love Topanga Canyon, natural state park, and it's absolutely beautiful. And at that time, we moved it to Topanga. I never went back to my apartment. Everything was packed up, never went back to that apartment. And I was staying in the caravan with some friends there up in the hills of Topanga. And I remember seeing a poster. Have you seen a UFO? And I don't remember it word for word, but it had a picture of a UFO on it. Now, it was a gentleman that we all know very well, is Preston Dennett. Preston authored, 40 books, absolutely amazing books. Please go on and watch his YouTube videos. He talks about all different encounters. The research that it goes into, is amazing. I absolutely, he was the first gentleman that I saw the poster and I took it down. I'm thinking, I've seen a UFO there. I've seen a UFO, in LA. So I kept the poster, and I had a experience in Topanga Canyon, and I didn't know at the time that it was going through a UFO flap. And so that in 93, Preston really was the first person. So I've always I haven't kept in contact with Preston since 93. It was until I really started, looking into it all. And I don't actually remember how I came across knowing that it was Preston, because I lost the actual poster itself, and Preston's actually going to send me a copy of it because I'm going to put it up on my wall, because it's just quite remarkable that it was going through a UFO flap at the time, and I had an encounter in Topanga. So when I asked him things, or when I did the road trip with the BBC, obviously I got to meet Preston again. They took me back to where I had my encounter, which was very strange. And as you know, when you go and work, and when you're at research and you've got other people filming, you don't have really a long time to sit and reflect, because you're on to the next and journey down, and the next experiences. I wish I'd spent more time there, but
Question.
That was my LA encounter.
At a certain point, you explored aspects of this experience in hypnotic regression. Was it with Bud or Dr. Mack or Dolores Cannon, or all of them, or one of them? And what did you learn via hypnotic regression?
Well, I'm going to say, I feel it's difficult to describe. With hypnosis, it can confirm a lot of things. It's sort of things slot into place, but also you're still, I'm not sure, even though there's feelings that go with it. I mean, let's talk about Roger Lear, and the implants, alien skull pole. I spoke with Roger along.
You mean Roger Lear, right?
Yeah, Roger Lear. Yeah, because I have something in my leg that I showed him, and it's still there till this day. And he said that would be very interesting. Yes, it would be something to definitely look, and you can feel it in my leg. But because I got a scoop mark, now I didn't know about scoop marks at all, and the scoop mark happened when I was very young in the house that I lived in Lymphstone. After the Chinese girl encounter and the gazebo, it was my sort of safe place that I used to go to in the garden with beings. So, I never explored the implant, but it's on my left ankle, and the scoop mark is literally like someone scooped the skin out of me. But I recall that via hypnosis, and that was with Dolores. With John, it was backwards and forth with the help of Nick when he was at Harvard, and we were sending letters backwards and forth because he was going to be coming over here, or we were going to go over there, and we were dealing with John and his secretary at the time, and I've still got the letters about working with him, because at that point he had other people that he was looking into their cases, and because I had just gone public, I was going to be a good candidate for him. And I worked with Dolores first. Then we were going backwards and forth with John, trying to work out workings of how we can do this. I think we had a telephone talk as well. And then Nick had booked us in to go to Bud for the hypnosis. So, like I said, two different hypnosises. Dolores's hypnosis, different things came out. Bud's different things came out. With Bud, we looked more into the freeway, and also you must know Jeremy Corbell, yeah. So Jeremy comes from Brentwood in Los Angeles, and backwards, Nick's contacted him. I've contacted him as well, and because that's right, he knows that area so well. Also, we have Lisa Royal Priest. She is an experiencer. She has gone more into workshops, sort of like Palladian DNA activations, and gone that route.
Human potential work, yeah.
Yes, yeah. That's a nice way of saying it. Human potential, lovely. So, she had an encounter exactly the same place as me at the Holiday Inn on the freeway there, exactly the same place, which I find quite bizarre. So, but yeah, so Jeremy comes from LA, and I'm thinking, obviously, and I've picked up a book the other day. I've picked up a new book that I didn't have, Flying Saucers Over Los Angeles. I have to read about that, but I'm sure that will be more of. It'll probably be a collaboration between people, experiences, and maybe some of Preston Dennett's work in there, or like back to the old, 50s, wave of encounters over Los Angeles. I'm not too sure yet. So, but yeah, so it would be interesting what his viewpoint was on it. Broad daylight on the freeway, Jeremy lives there. So, had he heard of anything?
Fascinating. Have you had any experiences or sightings that you'd like to share with us from, say, the last decade?
Right, yeah.
At a certain point, for some people, things go quiet. We can make our best.
You can have big gaps, yeah.
Make our best educated guesses about why. But has that been the case for you, or has this persisted to some degree over these years?
So after I came back from the States, I had experiences. Like I said, the lady with going over the park, the like sea mines. I had the black triangle. I had beings next to my bed. I had them injecting my spine, and then it was like a dartboard. All of a sudden, boom, 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 out. I was out for the count. I then moved to a place called Morwellum Key. Morwellum Key, I had experiences there. It was a beautiful little tin mine, Victorian tin mine. And it's funny, people talk about ghosts. I saw a giant ghost, just the top half of him, of a giant. It was very strange in the mine that I was on a mine ride. It was massive, like just top torso of a giant. It was strange. And then I've have blue little lights. One time came into the bedroom. They did the figure of 8, and then went back out again. And then I was working at an all boys school at Cheltenham Mill. I had these, I was reading a book on remote viewing. It was remote viewing, Journeys Out of the Body it was. And I had got up, it was early in the morning, got up, because I was on the radio. I'd stayed up all night, been reading early in the morning, and then I was looking after it was an all boys school, doing sort of the security there. And I just felt the feeling I had to look out the window. I looked out the window, and I could see these, what I said earlier, seen lots of them, the silver, like steel balls. And there was about 5 or 6 of them, and they were following the lines of the tree line. So I had the big building, big field, then there would be water, and then there was another field, and they were on the horizon above the trees, following the direction of the trees. I got on the radio to one of the guys, because he said, "B, if you ever see anything, please, call me, please." can you come up? I said, can you come up to the unit? He couldn't come up. So my boss came up. So there I am on the top of the sofa, looking out the window. My boss saying, what are you doing? I went, can you see those? And he goes, yeah, what are they? I said, I don't know, but I've been watching them go from there. So we watched them to the point where they all went. So that's all that. And that one links to my encounter in Brentwood. So, right. So that more, yeah. Did I tell you?
Amazing.
So that one, it was the day that Corey Haim died from Lost Boys. Now, I didn't realise that until I got home early hours of the morning. I then have to go to sleep because I've been up all night. And then when I wake up at lunchtime, I got told that Corey Haim from Lost Boys had died. And I went, no, I was so sad because I love that film. It's one of my favourite films. And he died in the Valley. And he died in Woodland Hills. I went, oh, I lived in Woodland Hills. He died in Oakwood Apartments. And I went, oh, my God. So there's me having a UFO encounter the day that Corey Haim died. He lived in the same apartment blocks that I lived in Oakwood Apartments. I'm not sure what number he lived in, but I know what number I lived in because it's on my tag in my Halifax. And it linked me back to me having an encounter in Los Angeles, in that apartment. And also the apartment that I got told when I did the talk, that the number of the apartment that I went to where I had the Men in Black car, as you in America, you do your month, then your day, and then your year. Yeah. That actually said the actual date and the year of 9/11 because they panned it. That I took a picture of it, of that apartment, and then someone in the audience said, "Do you realise that that's the actual date of 9/11? Obviously, 9/11 hadn't happened then at that point." Well, it had happened at that point when I'd done it, but obviously it hadn't happened when it happened in '93. So that was a bit bizarre. And then I've had so many. I've had then driving to work. I remember one night on the way driving to work, I could see this white object. It was coming down through the trees. I then pulled the car over, stopped the car, got out, went over to the gate, and I just saw it coming down through the trees, down onto the floor of the field. And then I just watched it follow the field as it went away from me. I've had lots of encounters with my son Orion. And I've had some very bizarre encounters with my son Orion, actually. And my son Orion's also had UFO encounters without me there with his friends.
Can you give me one example?
Right.
Can you give me an example of an experience that you shared with your son Orion?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I've got two very good ones. But right, one of them was an old Victorian, sort of like this old farmhouse that I lived in, and had the old sort of typical tiles on the floor, the black and white sort of like Edwardian tiles. I had quite a long hallway, and it was a big house. It was a bit higgledy-pickledy, little rooms off into various different places. And it was at night, and I was just sort of like going round to double check that everything was locked.
Sure.
So I went to the front door, and it was a glass front door, so you could see out. And I had actually an American car then. It wasn't a fabulous sort of classic one, but it was a Chrysler Grand Voyager. So it was quite high up. And, with the big slidey doors, but the wing, so you'd know the height of it and you'd know where the wing mirror is. Well, just as I went to go and lock the door, I could see something white. Now, I'm not going to say it, but I would say the size of it would have been, do you remember the good old fashioned space hoppers that people used to have? Did you have them out in the States?
Yeah.
Space hoppers, did you have them? Yeah. Okay. Bit smaller than that, and bigger than a football. It was glowing a white glow, and it was by the wing mirror of my car on the left-hand side of my car. So I would have reversed the car, and it was by the wing mirror. Now, it was not illuminating. So I didn't call Orion down at this point. Was not illuminating the car. It wasn't illuminating the bush behind it. It was not illuminating the floor. It was just there at the same height as the wing mirror. So I'm looking at it because your brain's like trying to think, what is it?
Sure.
And I know what's behind there, which is a bush. And then if you walk to the right of the bush, then you've got the little lane that would lead onto the main road. So I'm sort of trying to study what it is. And at that point, I then walk back a few steps and I shout up to Orion. I said, Orion, can you come down, please? Now, it generally means that either one, he's in trouble, or I've got something that I need a witness to. Yeah. So he comes downstairs. I said, come here. And he goes, what is it? I said, just come in, please. So we are at the door, front door, not open. We've closed it. You know, the door's closed. I haven't even dared open it. We're staring at it. He goes, what is it? I said, I do not know. And it is staying there. It's not doing anything, still not illuminating anything. It's there. And it's getting slightly dimmer. It stayed bright for some while, but I'd like to say it was a dull bright, if that makes sense. It wasn't like, whoa. It was sort of like diffused sort of light, but big. And we're staring at it, and what is it? I said, I have not got a clue. It's been here for a while. And then we're watching it slowly, probably over 2 or 3, 4 minutes, maybe, getting dimmer and dimmer, still staying the same size until it's gone. And he just said, fine. Just double check all of the doors, windows, and everything, in which we did. So that's what witnessed that. But some strange things happened in that house. One night, and I'll tell you about the tiles in that house. One night, my daughter was away, Orion was in the house, and my other son was in the house. And my other son was very, very small at the time. All of a sudden, we're all in bed, and I hear footsteps, somebody walking on those tiles. I hear them walking on those tiles, then it goes blank. Then I hear it just for the count of probably in my head, because you do it every day, subconsciously, you know how many stairs there is till you get to the top. All of a sudden, I heard something come up to the top step. I heard something, and that was it. I then jumped straight out of bed. I'm not scared of nothing, mate. I jumped straight out of bed, and I went straight into my youngest son's room, and he was sat up, bolt upright. He was probably about a year and a half old. Yeah. Wow. But bolt upright he was. Bolt upright. I just grabbed hold of him, took him into my room. I had Orion in the bedroom with me, and he's older at this point. I haven't got a clue what that was at all, but that, you know, and some strange things happen with Suzanne Chancellor, Mike Cleland, an owl scenario. There's a very strange paranormal experience that brought us all together in that house as well. So, you know, and another very quick one I'll tell you of Orion. One night again in a different house. Yes, I did smoke cigarettes out in Los Angeles, and I smoked cigarettes in England. Late night cigarette before go to bed, outside underneath the stars, as you do, sort of like looking at them. And then all of a sudden, you know, like obviously like the Starlink and like Elon Musk was, you know, releasing all of the satellites. Well, let me tell you, this is like way before all of that. All of a sudden, I'm like looking, and I just see 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. Orion, he comes down, and we are watching a mass array of them to the point of we could not count anymore. We couldn't. We stopped counting. So they were high up. It was just like, do you know what it looked like? A fishing net with balls all in it. That's what it looked like. It was unbelievable. There was. I think we lost count after about 30, all in a massive line, and they just went over to the right until they disappeared. It was quite unbelievable. That was unbelievable. That was crazy.
The house that you're living in, it's by certainly American standards an old house. A lot of times we let our imaginations run wild, and it's informed by romance and our fascination with the paranormal, other realms. Other times it's just the way it actually is. That what I'm leading to here is a question. There's no right or wrong answer. It's purely your subjective opinion based on your experience and living your life. Do you feel that the so-called UFO phenomenon, the other intelligences attached to it, orbs, other kinds of paranormal experiences, presences in homes where there is a presence, are all somehow organically, functionally, philosophically part of the same thing, or that these are uniquely interesting but separate things that in some cases of certain people, they come together? Any thoughts on that? And again, there's no wrong answer here. I'm just really curious to know what you feel about that.
Well, maybe you can make things happen. Maybe. I don't know.
Yes.
It's a bit like I didn't go outside and have a cigarette and expect to have another encounter. I think it's about being at the old saying, in the right place at the right time. Or maybe there is a part of something inside experiences that you're drawn to a certain place and then it happens. I like I said a few times, and I have got photographs of it, at that house with the string of big, like I said, a fishing net.
Sure.
Fishing net, yeah, masses of them. And yes, the people, everyone's going to say, why didn't you take your camera out and why, blah, blah. And you know what? Because you don't think of it at the time. But I have photographed things. When my driving down the road one time, in my head, like, get out the car and photograph something. So I did get out the car and photograph. Took two pictures, and something came out on one of them. And then another time I was looking after a dog, beautiful chocolate Labrador. And I remember it being on the sofa, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I could see movement, very low down movement of an object starting to move very low down at a light. And then I did have the camera next to me. I had my phone next to me. And at that point, I then took, I think, 3 or 4 snaps, to the point of I'm watching it and I'm just taking snaps because I want to actually physically watch it. So I don't want to look through a camera and not connect with it, because it's better to connect with these things. I mean, like at ESETI Ranch, you know, things that I've seen at ESETI Ranch was absolutely amazing. And you are connecting with it totally.
And what did you get on camera? What did the film register, if anything?
Yeah, it did. So you've got a few snaps of the dog on the sofa, and then exactly what I saw, it was like something, it was purple, like a purple, violet, blue, something spinning, and it was very small, but you can see it. It's a bit like, it's not a fly, it's not a moth. Because I watched it with my eye. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to photograph you. I'm going to photograph you. I'm going to photograph you. And I photographed it. So you can be very lucky, I suppose. And it is personal at the end of the day. It isn't, I don't need validation from anybody at all. And that's why, you know, at the end of the day, people go, well, why hasn't that girl in the car come forward? I don't know. It can affect people in so many different ways. I am going to go out of my way again and sort of campaign to try and find her. Of course I am, because that would just be remarkable. But, you know, I'm another voice, like many, many, many of us, and so many more that are coming forward, that you have to talk about these encounters because they're so amazing that you're having, you know?
Yeah. Can you, in a minute, sort of sum up your thoughts on the phenomena, where we are going in this. We are obviously at a very interesting, exciting, somewhat unique time based on everything that's rolled along for 75 odd years, where for some of us, it really seems like we may well be on the edge of things truly shifting. And disclosure is, for me, an organic process that has been happening for a particular period of time, but we seem to be heading toward a tipping point. Any thoughts on how things will change when we hit that point?
Wow. Well, we've got a few different types of people, haven't we? So you've got an experiences like me. I've just continued saying about my encounters and my other encounters. And then you've got people that are just so closed off. Like I said to you earlier, we're in England. You're out in America. You've got Fox News that's just gone live last week on someone is now saying that this is what's happening. We have Kraft. I've got people here in England that have not even picked up that news at all. Yeah. So I am so glad, but I don't need any validation from the government at all. Yes. Government, is it a bag of lies? We know it's not a bag of lies, but we don't know if what he's saying is a bag of lies. So I know that he's well known, but listen, we've got so many people that I know that that within ufology that have had remarkable experiences, and you're still being poo-pooed, even if you've got valid proof of it. I mean, no one's got a part of anything, obviously alien implants and various things. And we can't validate it unless I still can't validate my experience on LA because I don't have her here. It's amazing if you have your witness.
Given the nature of this subject and how open-ended it is, you and I have run out of time. And Brigitte Barclay, I love you. I miss you. Thank you so much for joining us. You will be a return guest.
I'll see you in Hull.
I'll see you in Hull first. Peter Robbins here with my special guest, Brigitte Barclay. Stay well, stand up for what you believe in, and be kind to each other. And we'll see you next week.
Happy 4th of July for tomorrow. All right, guys. Bye.